Good evening. It's very late here on the west coast of the U.S. and well, there's just unparalleled chaos happening in our world these days, and well, I just don't think I can sleep tonight if I don't speak my mind about what's going on. So, you know, this past year, it's been a rough one. Uh, we've had this COVID lockdown bullshit. Um, we've had uh, Trump doing his thing, being an agent of chaos, doing exactly what the occult ruling class wants him to do, creating more division within society. Um, we've had the George Floyd riots, burning cities, um, and then we've had this recent Capitol insurrection done by Trump supporters. Um, and so all of these events really show you the hypocrisy of both sides of the political spectrum. Both of them feel like it's okay to riot at one time and it's not okay to riot at another time, and they just want to pick and choose when they think it's okay to use violence, when it's really not okay to use violence anytime. Um, so we started seeing though this ramping up of political violence after Trump got elected, or maybe a little bit before, but around 2017, some things really started to fit together for me in regards to what we were seeing. Um, so there's a quote by Manly P. Hall, who was a incredibly illuminated person from the 20th century, from his book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages, which is on my shelf here. But, okay, so the quote is, "When the mob governs, man is ruled by ignorance. When the church governs, he is ruled by superstition. And when the state governs, he is ruled by fear. Before men can live together in harmony and understanding, ignorance must be transmuted into wisdom, superstition into illuminated faith, and fear into love." So, these three enemies that Hall is speaking of in this passage are the three enemies of the Christ consciousness, or the three murderers of Hiram Abiff in Masonic tradition. Hiram Abiff was the master mason of King Solomon's temple, and a Christ figure in his own light. Hiram Abiff. So the three murderers are symbolized as ignorance, superstition, and fear. So in 2017, we started seeing this political violence ramping up. I turned on my laptop one day and saw news coverage of a protest happening in Portland, Oregon, pretty near to where I live. And what did we see? We saw three camps of people. One camp had started the rally they called it the Patriot Prayer Rally. And so this group, they were Trump supporters. And then across the street from them, you had the black-clad, black bloc Antifa groups. And right down the middle, in the middle of the road, you had the police. And so I was reading Manly P. Hall's book at this time, and it sort of clicked for me. I was like, whoa. Right there. You have it. Ignorance, superstition, and fear. Antifa, Black Bloc is the ignorance. Patriot Prayer, Trump supporters are the superstition. They think that, they really believe their Romans 13 there, where they think that the governing powers of earth are ordained by God. It's such a circular argument when you think that has any validity, because that passage in the Bible was written by Constantine, the Emperor Constantine, who basically decided to make Christianity the state religion. And so by putting in that passage that the governing powers of earth are ordained by God, it's just circular reasoning. It's a logical fallacy. Government is not of God. It is not godly. It is not good. So, superstition at work there. People think that Trump was sent by God. Literally, they do. And then you have the police in the middle, who are the strong arm of the state and rule with an iron fist, with fear. And so, of course, the Antifa Black Bloc group are the radical, militant, atheist nihilists who, nihilists and communists who just are so ignorant of natural law, as best as I can put it right now, and anything godly. There's a famous passage in Hermetic Corpus: man's ignorance of God is the greatest ill amongst men. And the more I ruminate on that passage, I do think it is the greatest ill in some respects, because without the light of the Creator, we'll always be doomed to ignorance. And ignorance is, in many respects, at the root of all of these groups' problems, because they're all ignorant of natural law. So there was a key word in Manly P. Hall's passage there, transmuted. And when you think of transmutation, you think of change, but you also think of changing from a lower, inferior state to a higher, more enlightened state. And this brings us to the main topic for tonight, which is alchemy. Alchemy, most people are familiar with the exoteric version, which is this idea of turning lead into gold, right? But this is in fact a cloak of the truer meaning of alchemy, which is alchemy as a spiritual practice or a spiritual discipline. It's not just some superstitious folly of a bygone era. It was more than this vain pursuit of trying to turn lead into gold. But most people at the time that alchemy was in its heyday saw it as such, and this is largely because the Catholic Church persecuted alchemists and really anyone who went against church dogma. But so true alchemists, esoteric alchemists, would have had to occult their teachings by using grand metaphors like lead and gold, or the rose on the cross. Renaissance paintings are really wonderful treats to look at because the layers of symbolism that you can see, if you can read the keys of the symbols, then a greater meaning is ascertained there. But anyways, alchemy is actually a metaphysical or spiritual practice. First, it's the internal work. The internal great work is to refine your mind, body, and spirit, and to remove the dross from your life, the things that weigh you down and keep you enmeshed in this dense material world of ignorance and sin. So I did a video on this. My last video was sort of on the internal alchemy, and it's worth noting that the card Temperance in the tarot deck is, in other tarot decks, it's known as the alchemy card, because temperance has a lot to do with internal alchemy. It is internal alchemy. But so, other aspects of the internal alchemy is like getting your own affairs in order, getting your house in order, which I have now done. But then, once you have your own microcosm in order, then you can move into the macrocosm. Then you can bring alchemy into the wider world. And these, you'll find, go back and forth, that, you're going to have to work in the external world and then move back into the internal world. It's a dance. But so the external alchemy, this metaphor, of transmutation, it can be applied to so many different things. One of my favorites is going to the scrapyard for me. Going to the metal scrapyard, where I can find different odd-shaped bits of metal that I can forge into artwork. And if I find, lumber that people don't want, then I can use it to build structures that I need. So recycling is a big part of alchemy. Composting, you're taking this prima material and you're using it to fertilize your garden or whatever. So the artist in society is the closest that we have these days to the alchemist, because these are the people who are quite literally using the physical world in an alchemical capacity. But the most important, and I would say the quintessential meaning of alchemy is that of anarchy. Because it is to make anarchy is like trying to make gold from lead. Despite modern portrayals, like in Hollywood movies, anarchy does not mean chaos. It quite literally means without rulers. And archony. Archons in ancient Greece were the rulers of the society. So an is the prefix, which means without. So without archons. Without rulers. It does not mean, however, without rules. The rules being of an anarchic society, respect for the individual sovereignty of every being, in accordance with natural law, doing no harm, taking no shit. See, in the absence of a ruler, the law is king. Shout out to Mark Passio and his website, What on Earth is Happening. Check it out. Started podcast 1. So you could break these sacred laws, but to do so would only result in more suffering and chaos. So if you want a peaceful society, a society which people have called the Golden Age, then it would behoove you to abide by these sacred laws. See, statism is in fact archetypal chaos. But it masquerades as order. It's lawlessness pretending to be otherwise. Because law is real. It's not an arbitrary construct of men. It's testable. It's observable in a natural setting. So, in alchemy, there are 3 phases of the great work. The first one is called the Negredo, which means the blackening. And this is akin to the raw data in our world, the prima materia, the lead, if you will, the conditions we find ourselves in, the chaotic world that we find ourselves in today. this is the Negredo, and it's our starting point. So for the alchemist to make gold, he would have to embrace the Negredo, embrace where he's at, and start from there. And this means that we need to stop ignoring the negative in our world. We can't have this mentality of good vibes only, you know, take that negativity somewhere else. No, like, we need to hear each other out and have those difficult conversations. We can't just sweep it under the rug if we want things to get better. It's been said that the sickness of society is so profound that those who that few can bear to look at it, but those who do will become well. And so when we do look at it, then we come to the second phase of the great work, which is the albedo. This is which means the whitening, or the refinement stage of the work. And what this means is stop doing those behaviors that are putting us into deeper bondage. Withdraw your support from government, from politics, from corporations as much as you can. Pull back your time and attention from these evil institutions. So, because again, the solution to our problems is so much more about what we need to stop doing than in trying to do anything new. So, then once we do that, it leads us to the third phase of the work, which is the rubedo, the reddening. This is because the Philosopher's Stone was depicted as a red stone, or sometimes as a phoenix, even. But this is the flowering of anarchy, of a truly civil society. Not this fake peace that we have now in many areas where, like suburban America, where people are like, oh, but we have peace here, we just... No, you outsource your violence to other places so that you can have the highest standard of living in the world. That's how I was born and raised. But getting back to the rubedo, when we can all unite in the spirit of natural law, the world will know peace, and we'll be able to pursue quests like exploring the universe and creating the technology that's more in harmony with our Earth, and we'll be able to flower a more civil world. But this can't be done, again, if we're going to let the state continue to rule our lives. So, then, in contrast to these three phases of the great work, is the inversion of these phases, which the enemy uses against us. And many researchers have called this problem reaction solution, which is again an inversion of the Hegelian dialectic of thesis, antithesis, synthesis. But so problem reaction solution is this incredible methodology for controlling and enslaving a society, whereby you create a problem, you then plan a reaction to this problem, and then you provide a solution. So, an example of a problem would be like a genetically engineered virus, or a well-publicized account of police brutality, phony election results, false flag terrorist attack. So then once you have your problem running amok, then you can plan the reaction to it with your bought and paid for media. So you can then seed within the population fear and outrage or whatever other kind of emotion you want them to have. And then you can swoop in and provide the solution for them. The solution to their fear and confusion, which in modern times has taken the form of lockdowns or the Patriot Act, steps towards a more socialistic communist society with the government writing us checks now for $600. Just more control in general. That's what they're after. And, by continuing this cycle of problem, reaction, solution, step by step, year by year, they're getting it done. They're getting the totally controlled society that they want. So, politics right now, Republicans and Democrats, shame on you. Both of you are like children. Democrats, you have mommy issues. Republicans, you have daddy issues. But more than that, you're pushing America towards the brink of civil war and ultimately a greater tyranny. Remove yourselves from this equation. You're creating your own mirror image. You are your own worst enemy. Wise the fuck up, people. Come on. We gotta wise up to this. Well, I think that's about all I have to say for tonight. Here's hoping that things will get better. Take care now.